Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm gonna use to ignite the fire for another Skylanders video here on my channel. Now what makes this franchise truly exceptional is not just for games where you can bring inanimate toys to life in their world using a portal power, but it's also for physicality of said inanimate toys. This is because you have a physical figurine to play around with and manipulate. Now Skylander toys are great. Take Camo for example, all his colours contrast really nicely so he pops and stands out on the shelf as a creative and colourful life dragon. He's even well textured to make it fun to rub your fingers along, but a toy as good as this one doesn't have to remain exclusively like this. This is where customizing comes in. You can change up for Skylander figurines in whichever way you please. Just look at the combination of all these figures before you made by remixed Skylanders. He gave Shortcut Chompy Mage's puppets for hands, he gave Graveclobber Knockout Terrapin's gauntlets. This showcases that customs can go beyond just a repaint and the only limit to creating them is your imagination. This is a reimagining of these classic figurines and making entirely new characters and new personalities from them. It takes a fine level of skill and steady hands to customize Skylanders, and I admire the time and dedication poured into making them to look even better than the original figurines. Now I'm no Skylander customizer, I just admire the work, and the work from one such content creator known as the Skylander Dude is some of the best I've seen. So I approached him on Instagram and he was happy not only to talk about his experience creating custom Skylanders, but also to do so whilst making a custom for me. I made the suggestion to turn Smash Hit's Wrecking Ball into a literal Wrecking Ball from Skylanders Spice Adventure. Without further ado, let's jump into the wonderful world of Skylanders Customs from the perspective of an incredibly experienced and talented customizer.
What's going on, guys? It's the Skylander Dude here on Ignite the Fire's channel to talk to you guys a little bit about customizing. If you guys don't know me, I've made over 100 customs ranging from Ring of Heroes, Lost Islands, and unreleased variants, and of course countless other random Skylander customs in the mix. So as I go over my process, inspiration, and how I got started making customs, I actually will be making a custom right here in this video for Ignite the Fire. And if you haven't already guessed, the main premise of this custom is turning Smash Hit's Wrecking Ball into actual Wrecking Ball. So let's get started. So to start this custom here, I use a heat gun just to heat up the figure and take apart the different pieces. Starting with Wrecking Ball, I took him off the base there. Then I went over to Smash Hit, took off the Wrecking Ball from Smash Hit's base. Then I took apart his torso, as well as his legs, his head, and then his little backpack that has the chain and his hand also attached to it there. Then once I have all those pieces separated, I will start to shave down just the little pegs that attach it to the base of the Wrecking Ball figure because I won't be using the Wrecking Ball magic base anymore. I'll be putting Wrecking Ball onto the Smash Hit base. So I'm just flattening the feet out that way so it sits nicely onto that base, basically flattening out any other parts or pieces from the Smash Hit figure so they can all piece together nicely. Now while I shave these down here, I'll tell you guys a little bit how I got started making Skylanders Customs. Now of course I was a big fan ever since the first game, and it was around Swap Force where I actually made my first custom. In elementary school when the games came out, I was always big on art. I was a big fan of art. I loved sculpting with clay and stuff like that. And so when I see people like Skylander Boy and Girl or Remix Skylanders on the time, he had an Instagram account, made tons of customs on there. When I see those types of figures, I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. I gotta try it. And of course, my first few customs maybe are not the most, well, they went the best, to say the least. You know, I've got tinfoil glued on one's just a simple paint job, but it's a start and you gotta start somewhere. And speaking of started somewhere, now we're starting with the paint job of the figure. I got all the paints out here. But yeah, really it's those creators back in the day showing off their work that they've done with Skylanders Customs that inspired me to make my own and brought me to where I am today making these customs. So back to the Wrecking Ball Smash Hit figure. I'm starting with the brown. I wanted to have more of an earthy tone to the Wrecking Ball figure because the blue it wouldn't have went with the Smash Hit figure. So I'm painting it brown. The top half is going to be brown and the bottom half is going to be more of a lighter brown. So I'm going in carefully, painting around the eyes because the eyes are going to stay green, and painting around all the top lip and just keeping it nice, clean lines. If I have to go back over it with a different color, it's not that big of a deal because the bottom half isn't going to be blue. It's going to be, again, painted that tan color. But to keep the custom moving while I wait for that brown coat to dry, I mix up a batch of a light gray that I'm just going to paint over the Smash Hit's fur. And I wanted this gray to match the Smash Hit as perfectly as I could to the figure because I didn't want to change that color of gray. I thought it was a pretty solid gray and it will match with the entire paint job of the figure. So just matching that gray and repainting it just to get clean lines, because I know sometimes the orange on the hands or belt might seep over onto the gray fur. So I just wanted it to be all completely gray because I'm going to end up painting those orange straps anyway later. And you guys can see here in most of these clips, I'm only really showing 1, maybe 2 coats of each color going onto the figure because, well, it's quite repetitive. But at the end of the day, it's getting close to maybe 5 or 6 coats per color, just so they can pop out. They're nice and vibrant and you don't see the color underneath them, especially for this light tan that I'm starting with on the bottom of Wrecking Ball. You can pretty much see a lot of that blue showing through that first coat. But once you go through, you get to the 6th or 7th coat, you want to make sure it's that solid color that you first originally painted on. So you got to be patient with this. You got to take your time. You got to go over the lines a few times if you need to, just to get that color right, because you want it to be bold. You don't want it to be look like it's, you don't want to see that blue underneath the tan. You want it to be tan. So you do, as much as it might be boring or it might be tedious, you got to keep going over the colors multiple times so it's nice and vibrant. You can see the colors. It's the colors that you want them to be, basically. But now you can see me using the brown again for all the orange bits. Those are all going to be painted over brown. You can see how thin it's going on. And you do want to water down some of your paints. I'm using acrylic paints for this custom. The finish doesn't really matter. So some of these are matte and some of these are a satin finish. It won't matter because I'll be covering it all with a clear coat of Mod Podge at the end. I usually use a clear coat of Mod Podge for when I'm sending customs to different people. So I'll be sending this to Ignite, obviously. So I want to make sure it's nice and protected. It's not going to scratch any of the paint. But if I'm doing a custom for myself where I know that it's going to be displayed, it's not going to be handled as often, I'll usually just do an acrylic paint with a satin finish. That way it looks the best, in my opinion, it looks the best, closest to like a plastic of a Skylander figure. But speaking of thinning paints here with water, I'm actually doing a black wash on the entire Wrecking Ball figure. This just adds more texture, or more like faux texture. It looks like there's more texture to the figure. So basically what I'm doing is a very thinned out black. It's more water than paint, most likely. And so this will seep into all the pores of Wrecking Ball. So he'll have like nice dark shadows and he'll have dark cracks in the actual figure while the brown will stay on top. And I'm also doing that to the gray fur on the Smash Hit as well, just to give the fur a bit more depth. And then I'm basically doing the opposite technique, which is dry brushing. So you get a little bit of paint on the brush, you wipe most of it off on, I got a little paper towel there, and so that way you're just brushing on some paint on the very top of the figure, so that's not going into the pores like the wash would be. It's just going on the top to add to the highlights. And now I'm working on the red, trying to get a nice smooth transition from the red back to the brown, because if you know Wrecking Ball, his little mohawk bit there transitions colors. So I'm trying to replicate that as best as I can with just a brush, which is pretty difficult. That's probably done with an airbrush or something similar in the factory, and I don't have access to that, so you got to use what you got. And I got a pretty good result with the brush after going over it a few times, just making lighter coats as I got closer to that brown color to create that transition. And now I'll be painting all these silver bits gold. I thought gold was a great color to work with these other browns and more dull colors. This gold's really going to pop out, but it's not going to take too much away from the whole figure as one piece. And color is really important when you're making a custom. You want to think about what colors work good together, what colors don't work good together. I've definitely had my fair share of experiments, so if you guys are making your own, it doesn't hurt to have some practice figures just to test out and see what colors may work with others, or just using an editing software and editing a rough photo of what the figure would look like when you edit the colors on the picture. And as I work with white to paint on the teeth as well as the spines on Wrecking Ball, I'll touch again about inspiration, because I know I mentioned what inspired me back in the day when I first started making customs. But now also, again, seeing other people's work is also really inspiring. There's a ton of other customizers that are still making figures today. So it's really inspiring to see. I know sometimes I'll look at old concept art for figures and take some inspiration from that, maybe the colors, or take inspiration from what figures were going to look like before they had their final design, finalized. But even just playing the Skylanders games, I mean, sometimes I get inspired by seeing an NPC that was a fan favorite of mine, maybe not as the rest of the community really sees him as prominent as a character in the series, and you're like, man, I really like this guy, I want to do something with him. Now back to the custom. I'm now gluing all the bits together after they have finished their paint job. I'm actually going to be drilling a hole into the base and into one of the feet of Wrecking Ball. This way I can put a wire through it just to create more of an armature, so it's not going to have any chance of just breaking off the base. It's going to have something to support it, like a little skeleton. I also placed a wire through the hand and onto the top of Wrecking Ball. But then here's the Mod Podge. I'll be using a coat of Mod Podge over the whole figure to create that matte coating. So it's not going to be a shiny gloss coating. It's Mod Podge matte, so it's going to be not dull, but it's not going to be super shiny. It's kind of in between. You'll see here what I mean looking at the final custom. So here's the finished Smash Hit and Wrecking Ball custom. Big thanks to Ignite the Fire for letting me hop on the channel and showing you guys a little bit of my customization process and journey. But now, let's send this off to Ignite.
Okay, so I'm back with a package in hand, one in which I almost just dropped, and I shouldn't do that because there is something very valuable in here, at least to yours truly, because that being said, those clips you just watched of for Skylander Dude creating a custom, well, that very same custom just arrived, and it's time for me to unbox it and check it out for the very first time here on film, and I am so excited for this. We're just going to get straight into it. I've already cut around the tape because it's very well packaged, and I'd hope so, given it has came from overseas, so you got packing peanuts and all sorts. But boy, I just cannot wait to get into this further. It's all sellotaped over, so we're just going to carefully rip it apart, I suppose. Plenty of rustling to go around, eh? Okay, there we go. We're making it slow but surely to the inside. I can see the base. Oh, this is so exciting. I mean that. This is my first ever hands-on look at a in-depth quality custom. One as good as this. Holy shit! Oh my god, my voice cracked from sheer excitement. This thing, it is so cool. Oh, I can't even begin to demonstrate my gratitude for this. Oh my god. The craftsmanship is unparalleled. Like, I have a custom Skylander. It's a smash hit with a literal Wrecking Ball, and he's repainted pretty much everything. Obviously, Wrecking Ball spikes here have been repainted. His whole, body, his grub armor, it's all been repainted over, and the boots and the chain, it looks so good in gold. Oh my goodness, I am beyond impressed. This is art, is what this is. Oh, I have not been let down. Skylander Dude really pulled out all the stops for this, and I am so grateful and so impressed to have this in my possession. Holy cow! Let's get some close-ups. What I have here is my custom smash hit up close and personal. I also have his official version for comparison's sake, as well as steel plated Hutsuckle down the back. We already know it's better than both the steel plated versions, as they chose the ugliest shade of green possible for this variant series, and the colour contrast between the green and the silver doesn't even work. It's easy to see why this is one of my least favourite variants, and steel-plated Hutsuckle gets even worse because the colour palette doesn't even suit this specific figurine. Suppose this is why Skylander Dude mentioned about experimenting with different colour combinations to find out what works and what doesn't, because clearly this doesn't work. Anyway, let's get this steel-plated Hutsuckle out of here. Now with that all sorted, I did also bring along the original Wrecking Ball for comparison's sake there even. So naturally, as you can tell, the fur on my custom isn't quite as detailed and, or dare I say, fluffy as the original here, but it is a much nicer colour. I love that kind of gleam it's given, it really does shine. But more importantly yet is the choice of the browns and the golds. Obviously the brown on Smash Hit is made to match that on the Wrecking Ball, and so they really do look in uniform. It makes the figurine feel complete and really well thought through. It's definitely something that, if it were to be made official, it would be made in this way, and so I just love that complete look. And not to mention having Wrecking Ball have the white things along his back here for browns too. It just makes him a lot more Earth-like than obviously his original element, the magic element. And here on my original Wrecking Ball, the eyes are a little bit scuffed, and that's another good thing that customizing Skylanders is. It's that you can also use it as an opportunity to fix little scuffs on your Skylander, such as like where there's a bad paint job on the eyeballs or the teeth, and it's really nice to sometimes just neaten things up and make your Skylander figurines look all the more glorious. But that being said, going back to my custom here, I just love the gold. It really does give it a higher standard, it feels like, because gold is just such an enriching colour, and like I say, because it contrasts nicely with the brown, it just makes this figurine really pop. And the detail on Wrecking Ball is still maintained. You can still see like the little increments on his hard shell right now, even more so than his original actually. So I just love how it looks. It's so much more than the original, and the fact that, like I say, you have the gold, you have the brown, they contrast each other nicely, and they just make a really complete and fulfilling look, which I am beyond honoured to place upon my shelf. So how about I get to it? Now, this custom Skylander Dude made me is absolutely glorious, which means there's only one appropriate place for it to be put on display, and that's among all of my other glorious chase figurines, mind you. So this is definitely the duo shelves of glory, and the little custom in the corner there just made it a whole lot better. Wow, I'm impressed myself right now. I think I deserve a pat on the back for that tier selection. The only sad part is how these customs can be used on the portal, but they'll never show up in-game the same as they are on the figurine. Is that same level of disappointment as placing an awesome chase variant onto the portal, only to find out that they don't even appear that way in the game. Only it's even more depressing now, because you've put in so much time and effort into customizing this figurine, and yet you're not even rewarded with an in-game look. At least the physical figurine itself will always look awesome, and it was truly amazing to watch about this world of which I have no experience from the Skylander Dude, who's been passionate and talented within this field for years now. This video is intended to inspire, as all custom Skylanders should, because it's that time and dedication poured into customs which makes them so admirable, but it's also for creativity and experimentation. You're going to have to do things incorrectly, things are going to have to go wrong, and that needs to happen so you can gain the experience and learn how to ensure that things go right for next time. Never feel discouraged. After you've tried customizing a Skylander, try again. Keep going, and who knows how far your customs will go. You can't make the mistakes without first trying, and even when things don't go well, it's still your custom Skylander. No one else had the same ideas as you, no one else personalized that Skylander like you did. It truly is a Skylander completely unique to you, and that's just as admirable. The effort and the creativity, not just the final output. Know that, and hopefully you're as inspired to make Skylander Customs someday as I am. Who knows, maybe someday the spare Fight Rider I have won't look this way anymore. With that being said and done, this video is coming to an end, and I want to thank you all so much for watching. By merely clicking on this video, you've shown support and helped it garner recognition so it can reach many of the viewers here on YouTube. I'd love to see you take the extra step and leave a like on the video if you enjoyed. Also be sure to comment below and push that subscribe button whilst you're down there. By clicking elsewhere on screen, you can either check out a video that's specifically picked out for you, or you can check out the rest of the playlist for a series you just watched. Before ending off, I'd like to thank all of my Blazing Knights and Scorching Dragons whose support helped make these videos possible. I'll be seeing you in the next video, and until the moment arises, peace!